Yo, what is going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How you doing? This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Yeah, it's my horrible voice. Brought to you by my song of the day, Rock 2000 to today. How's everybody doing? Happy Tuesday to you all. It is the day after Labor Day, and yes, I know summer's officially over now. And for all of you who are going back to school today, and I know some are going to be like, well, we already went back to school. Well, for the majority of you that are going back to school today, have a good first day. If your professors or teachers are being, boring as hell and you're trying to get to do something else, and you're like, well, I want to focus on the Chord Progression Podcast. Yeah, come and listen because I've got some fun stuff to talk about. I do have a guest for the podcast because we've got a couple albums we want to talk about. One in particular. So before we get into that, it's time to do my shameless plugs. So for those of you who have been here and listening for the, ever since the duration, I do my shameless plugs. This is where I'd have any kind of ads if I had them, but I don't. So I just kind of plug the My Song of the Day stuff to make sure you guys know about it. And for all you new listeners, how's it hanging? How's it going? Love to have you on. So let's get started with the shameless plug. So follow the My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 a Day on all our social media accounts on Facebook, because when it comes to Facebook, that's exactly where you're going to find out everything when it comes to the Song of the Day choice, these podcasts, the YouTube videos, trying to get on TikTok, trying to see what we can do with that. So you might get some notifications on that if you're following us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. That's where we're going to engage with you and talk all about what's going on in the world of music. Follow us on Instagram because we're gonna engage with you as well. We're gonna ask you questions. We do IGTV videos where you get a behind the scenes look at what's going on with us and maybe where we're gonna be going next with the project. Also, we do our Instagram live streams every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. So that's time for you to come for an hour, ask us questions, we'll answer them. And if you're listening to this before Wednesday the 4th, I've got 2 live streams for Wednesday the 4th. I've got one that's going to be early in the afternoon for me, so 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time, because I'm going to do a special one for everyone in Europe, so they can always come on by and we can talk to them. Then I'm going to do the normal one as well to talk to everyone in the United States, and anywhere else in the Americas, and anyone else who wants to come by. I don't really mind if you come by at both, or one. I'd rather have you on both, but that's just the way it is. And also, subscribe to our YouTube channel because all our album reviews for this stuff are going to be out on YouTube. I know the Tool album review is going to be out already by the time this podcast comes out. The Wage War one will come out the following day. And we do a bunch of other things there too, like band reviews, pit bands against each other, see which one's better in comparison. We always try to find ones that are kind of close together, like Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens. And just answer some random questions, really get deep dive, like why did Bring Me the Horizon kind of go more towards a pop-centric sound? We have that YouTube video too, so go subscribe to that. Also, here you're listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and on the YouTube channel as well, so you have many different places you can listen to. And last but not least, wait a minute, what did I forget? I forgot we have an Amazon Alexa skill, so enable that skill on your Amazon Alexa device by saying, clicking the link in the description on this podcast, and then saying, hey Alexa, play my song of the day, and she will. And it'll be glorious because it'll be a way for you, rediscover old bands you used to know, discover new bands, find out about some songs. And this big thing that we've been doing ever since the beginning of the summer was Small Band Saturday, and we're still doing it. So it's a chance to get to know some of these smaller bands that are up and coming, and you can actually listen to their music and get in the know with them first before they hit it big. And we actually had a couple of them here on the Chord Progression Podcast. And the couple ones I think they're going to be big at the moment that I could easily see as of right now are, number one, I want to say GFM. They're probably the ones I think that it could go the furthest at the moment. Number 2, Kingdom Collapse. And then number 3, Ascending from Ashes. So those 3 are the ones I would definitely be keeping an eye out for at the moment. The other 3 that I've interviewed, definitely keep an eye out for Trivial Difference, Total Eclipse, and Apollo 03, but it might take a little bit longer time for them to get there because I know there's a lot smaller at this point, but you never know, they might pop off, and if they pop off, oh yeah, we're going to be there for them. So just all this stuff, everything I just explained, you want to follow it, be a part of it, links are all down in the description below. So enough with the shameless plugs. I got to do them though. So now it's time for the real meat and potatoes of the show. And I have a guest on the show today because the 13-year wait for the Tool album, Fear Inoculum, finally ended this past Friday. and people were just uproarious about this because the wait was finally over. It was done. We didn't have to wait for it no more. Now, me as a person, I'm not that big of a Tool fan. I just never really was. I never got into their music. So when it really came to listening to the album and doing our album review on it, yeah, it really was something that I thought I did a great job with and had a great look at it because I wasn't going to have any sort of like fanboyness or like pre-existing, I need to make sure it's a good one because we've been waiting 13 years. Like, no, I'm going to give my honest opinion on it. And you can watch our YouTube video, but here I will be discussing it with one of our Instagram followers. His name is Logan. And Logan's, I believe he's still in high school, but big fan of music. And when I asked for a guest on this podcast, I said, hey, put out an Instagram story that said, does anybody want to be on the Chord Progression podcast for this episode? He jumped on the opportunity right away. And I was so excited to have him on, or going to have him on because, well, we're doing this all in one take. But I'm so excited to have him on because I want to talk about this album. And then we'll try and get into some Wage War as well. I want to see if he listened to that. If he didn't, I can always talk about that myself. But then I also read for this podcast, I want to talk about something. I actually thought about talking about something. Man, I'm starting to babble. I thought about talking about something, and I'm going to hit that at the end of the show. So, without further ado, let me go into and find Logan's phone number so we can give him a call for the Chord Progression podcast as we talk about Tool. Now I'm starting to sound with my oh yeah voice. Shoot, do I still have his number here somewhere? Did I lose it? Nope, I got it. Okay, so get ready. Here's Logan. Let's see if we get him a call. Or on the phone. Yeah. Okay, phone is ringing. If he doesn't pick up, that'll be the first time that's happened, and I will be very embarrassed. We just gotta roll with the punch.
Hello?
Hey, Logan.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, dude? It's Kevin from the Chord Progression podcast, brought to you by My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 Day. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. How about you?
Dude, it is going absolutely fantastic. Life is good. Life is great. I don't know what other way to explain it.
That's awesome, man.
So, why don't we jump right on into it? Because the biggest news from the past week was the 13-year wait for the Tool album, Fear Inoculum, finally ended. It was done.
Right.
It's here. So we're now able to listen to it, and it's 10-track, hour-and-a-half long glory.
Right on, man.
So let's just jump into it, and I'm curious to hear your take on this. So were you excited to hear the album? Were you going to wait up till midnight when it was released and all of a sudden be like, yeah, I have to wait. And then right when it got released, you're going to listen to the whole entire thing. You're like, you know what? I can wait till the morning. It's not all that important to me, but I want to listen to it on the first day.
The thing is, I wasn't going to stay up till midnight, but I wanted to make sure that I listened to it on its release weekend. I wanted to make sure that I at least, caught it when it was still, in the weekend. I didn't want to wait too long to listen to it, because if I waited too long, I would not have had time because of school, but, I just wanted to make sure I listened to it.
Were you able to get through the whole entire thing multiple times, or have you just really listened to it only one time through?
I've listened to it about 3 times.
Okay, good. Then you and I are on the exact same boat with this. I've listened to about, I want to say 2 full times through, and then I've listened to a couple songs here and there, just, single-handedly off it. But every time I listen to a song, it's like a 10, 15-minute commitment.
Yeah, right.
Alrighty, so the runtime, an hour and a half long, and we had about 4 songs on this album that were rather more just instrumental than actually, those kind of long-form 10-plus minute songs. So, What did you think about that kind of a format?
So this is actually the main thing that disappointed me about the album. The other Tool albums I've listened to, sure, they have a lot of long songs, but they were very good lyrically. I didn't really like the super long instrumental songs and then, getting the little bit of lyrics in the other ones. I was expecting long songs, but I was expecting almost all of them to be lyrical. to be honest.
Totally understandable, and that was one thing I couldn't stand about this album as well, was because we have the only 10 tracks on there, and you have 4 or 6 that are 10 plus minutes, and then you have 4 that were under 5 minutes, and those ones that were under 5 minutes were purely instrumental. Now, don't get me wrong, on one of them, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Chocolate Chip Trip. I really like the drumming in that one because I'm a sucker for the drums. But I really didn't like any of the inclusions of them overall in the album, just because it really broke everything up when you were listening to it on a song by song basis.
Right.
And it just seemed like they kind of just, I don't want to say that it was this was the intention, but these kind of sounded like fillers.
Right. And I'm not a huge fan of filler tracks whatsoever, but I would have to agree with you when I say that Chocolate Chip Trip really suckered me in, because like you, I am a huge sucker for the drums, and yeah, the drums on that song were just, one of those tracks where it's just like, whoa.
I did think that it could have been useful in there, but its placement on the album between Culling Voices and Tempest,
right.
Oh god, that was just not a good decision.
Right. Yeah, I would have to agree. I was disappointed when it came to Tempest.
Really?
To say the least.
All right, because I have to disagree with you on this one, but I want to hear your opinion on this.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the lyrics. It's just that the melody just kind of disappointed me, to say the least. It's just something that didn't sit with me well at all. One thing that sort of bugged me was the runtime of that song.
The 15 plus minute runtime?
Yeah, that's one thing that sort of bugged me. But I mean, the lyrics were great. It's just the melody wasn't sitting with me.
So, was it just because it was more of like a harder melody in comparison to the rest of the album?
I mean, yeah, that's one thing. Whenever I listen to an album, I like to listen to the melody, and I like to try to hear if the whole album flows well, if you get what I mean. And I just thought that Tempest was just one of those songs that really threw me off guard, to be honest with you.
Okay, and that's totally fine. And the reason why I like talking about this, especially where I have to disagree with you on this, is because I wanted to hear your opinion and hear where you were coming from. From my standpoint, I was waiting for something throughout the whole entire album where they were going to have a harder sound that was going to change up kind of this more softer melodic style that they had going through with most of their songs, except for up to this point, the second half of Culling Voices, because once it got to like the 6:30 mark on that one, and I actually was looking exactly when that hit, I know it's around there somewhere, they go into this more of a hard rock sound, and it was a little bit harder, and I like that. But then you get into Tempest, and for like almost 15 minutes, they have this sound for their hard rock sound that was very reminiscent for, when I'm trying to compare it to like give other people a idea of what it sounded like. It sounded like something that I would hear off of a record that Chevelle would have made. And I really love Chevelle, and this was something I'd been waiting for from this album. And to get the longest song in there, 15 minutes of that specifically, and including the vocals and the lyrics that Maynard James Keenan came with, I thought this was the best song on the whole entire album.
Right. And this is about Tempest, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I would also have to agree with you when it comes down to talking about Culling Voices. I really liked that transition from the more kind of softer melody into the hard rock sound. I like that transition, to be honest with you.
They did a really nice job with that too, especially when it came to everything being a little bit more of that melodic rock up to that point, and all of a sudden they kind of switched to that hard rock style halfway through, and it gave the album a little bit more depth. And for me specifically, especially when I was going through it, I'll put it this way, when I was going through it the second time, because the first time I just listened to it all the way through, 1 through 10, and didn't really write anything down. I just wanted to get a feel for the album. It was something that I wasn't necessarily I didn't really pick up at first, but then when I was going through it song by song, it was something where that transition, I thought it was much needed, due to the fact that everything else had been more melodic up to that point.
Right. Another song that I sort of enjoy a lot is Invincible.
From what I've been seeing, especially on Twitter and Instagram, there's been a lot of split between what the best song on this album is, and there's a split between what I think it was with Tempest, but then Invincible is the other one that people are kind of like, which one's the best one? It's one or the other. So, what were your thoughts on Invincible?
Invincible. Okay, so mainly whenever I listen to a song, I like to, like I mentioned before, the lyrics. I like to pay attention to the lyrics when it comes to a song, and the lyrics on Invincible just really, got my blood flowing. It got me hyped up for no reason, but I just love the lyrics in Invincible, and I just love the melody. I just love everything about that song.
Anything with specific with the lyrics that really brought it to the forefront for you?
Okay. It was just I noticed how the lyrics, I'm reading them now as we speak. The
Perfect.
um the lyrics are like sort of telling a story about, like, from my understanding, from like soldiers returning to battle or warriors returning to battle or whatever. And I just love that because I think that this song is perfect for whenever I'm trying to, hype myself up for a sporting event or just hype myself up in general. I think that this song is just perfect. It motivates me to like go out there and try my hardest. It's just one of those types of songs.
Yeah, see, where I kind of looked at that song, I took it in a little bit of a different light when I was reading through the lyrics and trying to really figure out where it was. Due to the fact that I know with Maynard James Keenan, his vocals and his lyrics, or especially, I shouldn't say just his lyrics, they're full of metaphors all over the place. So really trying to hone in on what they were talking about. And I did get that on more of like a surface level and that whole entire story that you were telling. But when it came to like trying to really figure out, what it was a metaphor for, what I thought that was, this was the song that they were going to go on and talk about metaphorically the 13-year wait that it took for the fans to wait for this album and how long it took them to actually create it and produce it.
Right. Right. And I wasn't sure what to expect with this album at all. I mean, I was kind of nervous, to say the least, when it came down to Fear Inoculum. Yeah, I was very nervous about this album.
I think a lot of people were, but why were you nervous specifically?
So I started listening to Tool actually when I first got into metal music, and that was back in 2014 when I was like super young. But I just listened not religiously, but I listened to like maybe a few Tool songs, and I thought, okay, cool. And as the years went on, I started discovering more and more Tool songs. And once they released all their stuff on Spotify and Apple Music, I obviously sat down and I was listening to all the albums again, and I got news that they were releasing a new one. So I binged. I started to binge every single album, and I was trying to like prepare myself, but I was getting nervous because I thought I thought that, oh no, are they going to completely change their sound? Are they going to come back with like a new edge like Slipknot did? Or are they just going to come back the same old Tool? So that's the main thing that worried me, is like, I thought, oh, are they going to just come back an entirely different band? Because I saw the cover art and it was like a new logo and it just looked different. And I'm just like, oh no,
Well, I kind of have to agree with you in a very slight sense because I was nervous for this album as well, but my nerves came from the fact that it took 13 years for them to put this together, and multiple different people from the band were going and doing multiple different projects within that time, like a perfect circle. And when it came down to it, was why is this taking so long? And that's why I was a little bit more relieved when Maynard went on Joe Rogan's podcast and I listened to it. And even though they only spoke about the Fear Inoculum and the new Tool album for like 6-7 minutes, that was it. There for a 2-hour interview, that's all they talked about, and it was right at the beginning. So they announced the release date of the album. They announced that they were going to be going on all streaming platforms, and it was just the other biggest question was like, why did it take so long for this album to come out? Of course, it's a question on everyone's mind. if I remember correctly from what Maynard said, it was something like, they want the four guys, they have such a unique sound and such a unique vision for each of them that they butt heads so much, and they want to make sure that everything was perfect when it comes to making a Tool album. They didn't want to, leave anything to chance. So,
Right.
What was that?
I said right.
Oh, I thought you said why. I'm just like, I thought I kind of went through that, but oh well. But so I was less nervous there because I could see that they're actually taking a whole lot of time through doing that. And the other reason why I was nervous for this album to be released because of how long that wait was. And Tool has this insane fan base that's really into the band that
Right.
that long wait. What happens when they come out with something that doesn't necessarily hit well with the hardcore Tool fans, but hits really well with people from fans of other genres? Then this
Right.
album could be received in a completely wacky and really weird light and just be this complete enigma of an album, not only in the Tool catalog, but it could have been an enigma in any album that's ever been released.
Right. I would have to agree with you there. Also, just to add on to what you said, I would have to agree because this album could have been released, and like you said, it could have been totally disowned by the hardcore fans. But then imagine a newbie to the metal genre who listens to this and then goes on like a discussion page or a forum, says, "Hey, this is the best album ever," and then out of nowhere you get all these hardcore fans just completely destroying the kid. I mean, like you said, this could have been just an awkward release that is just not even received well.
That was one thing I was really nervous about too. When you're talking about that, because from my standpoint, like I said, I said this earlier before you came on the call, but I wasn't really any kind of a Tool fan at all. So when I came to review this album, I thought about him like I'm kind of really in a perfect spot for this because I don't have any like preconceived fanboy notion or like any real investment into the band, so I don't have to feel like it has to be good, or if it's bad, it's like if I want to make sure I align with the Tool fans. Like I was just gonna go with whatever I wanted to. Naturally, I'm gonna do that anyway, but I thought that could go bad because if all of a sudden I'm just trying to have discussions with people on the album online. If I'm on one end and the hardcore Tool fans are on the other end, this could get this. I don't think that it was gonna get nasty, but I've seen stories and heard people talk about different groups of fans for certain artists where if you go against something that artist said or something did and you question it or you're a little bit critical of it, all those hardcore fans come at you in droves and just sometimes harass the hell out of you.
Right. That's the thing that also made me nervous, was because I just didn't want to hop onto a page and say, "Hey, I'm a die-hard Tool fan and I believe this," and accidentally say something that goes against something that Maynard said and then absolutely get ripped apart. I just wanted to make sure that I knew my stuff. I wanted to make sure that I listened to all the albums before I went in and started, adding comments or having discussions.
You wanted to make sure that you were confident in your take and your opinion, where someone could be critical of your take and opinion, and you would still be able to stand your ground.
Right. I didn't want to just, go onto let's just say your page and leave a comment on one of your posts like, "Hey, I believe this," and then have someone reply to me like, "Okay, but what about this?" And just have me not even replying, just have me sitting there like, I don't know.
No, I totally get that. But one thing I want to say about the Tool fans when I came to me questioning people on this album and seeing what they were saying and kind of just exchanging thoughts on it, I've seen nothing but positive takes when I've disagreed with people or when I've agreed with people. For those hardcore Tool fans, everything has been fantastic in the interactions between myself and them. I'm not sure if you've had the same kind of interactions.
Right. Actually, I have a cousin who got me into Tool because she's a diehard fan, and she actually suggested me a few Tool songs. And after I've listened to them, I gave her my feedback, and actually, she's like a diehard fan. So the interaction I've had with her was really pleasant because she wasn't just one of those fans who, would completely blow up at you. like fan bases for other bands, for disagreeing or, think you're wrong or just talk you down. But no, I'd say that the interactions I've had with Tool fans, they've been awesome.
I'm also going to throw the majority, and I'm going to say like 99.9% of the fans of, rock bands and metal band fans. Since I've started the page, it's just connecting with those people and always asking, like, especially when new albums come out, what do you think about it? And for the Slipknot one, I gave it a rather lower rating than a lot of people did, but people gave it a higher one. I said, well, I disagree with you. I just want to see what your take is. And then they'd give me their opinion. They'd ask me what mine was. I'd put it out there, and it was always, I'd still find the silver lining in something. But if it's something like it's like, I really don't like part of this album that you really liked, I'm going to say why, but I'm not going to say, you're wrong. It's like, well, this is where your mind is with the album and its music. So how it impacts you is relative to yourself.
Right.
And I'm
exactly.
not I don't want to take that away from you, but I like to have the discussion about, what you felt about the album, how you really took it in.
Yeah, exactly. An example of this is I went to see Avenged Sevenfold with Breaking Benjamin and Bullet for My Valentine.
Okay, where was I for this show?
I went to see him when they were on the Stage World Tour back in 2018, and I was actually able to stand and talk to this guy who was a diehard Breaking Benjamin fan who didn't like Avenged Sevenfold. He didn't like their music, and I was able to stand there and have a pretty good conversation about why he didn't, what his thoughts on their, what his thought on their music was, stuff like that. I didn't even try to convince him or persuade him or try to change his thoughts. Whatever music you like, that's up to you.
It's all about having that discussion and sharing ideas. And there's some ideas that's, when it comes to your ideas on music, I'm not going to agree. But the thing is, I want to know why you think that. And I'm not going to ridicule someone for liking a certain kind of music. It's just I just want to know why you like it.
Right. And that's why I love having discussions with metalheads, because with every discussion I've had, I've just had nothing but open-minded conversations with people. People would ask me about my opinion, I'd tell them, then I'd ask them for theirs, and we'd be able to just sit there and exchange our thoughts and opinions.
Now, granted, you are going to get some people within the large groups of fans that are going to be that one way where if you disagree with them, they're going to come right after you because it feels like a personal attack.
Right.
You're going to get those people, but that goes for any kind of music, any sort of fandom with anything. However, from what I've seen with like rock music and hard rock metal, it's the majority, and I mean it's a vast majority, all open-minded to hearing, to exchanging thoughts and ideas when it comes to music and albums and how people perceive them.
Right. I was at work once, and one of my coworkers, he's also a metalhead, and we were talking about Metallica. And I asked him what his favorite album was from Metallica, and he said Saint Anger. And I said, well, I disagree. And before I could even finish my statement, he said, well, then you're wrong. And he just walked away. He got upset at that. And I'm just standing there like, well, okay then.
So that confused me because there was a lot of people within the Metallica fan base that really dislike Saint Anger and usually see it as their worst album to date. So if someone's going to be a big fan and says you think that's their best album, you say, well, I disagree, and all of a sudden they just kind of walk off in anger. It's like, well, you didn't even, let me ask why you like it.
Yeah, I was about to, but oh well, I guess.
Oh, well, it's their loss. All right, I want to jump back into this Tool album, though, because I feel like there's more that we need to touch on it.
All right.
So it was on August 2nd when they dropped all their stuff on digital, and the first single for Fear Inoculum came out, which was Fear Inoculum. I remember I really didn't get into it at all from the start, and I really didn't listen to that many. Like, I didn't go crazy listening to the albums when they went on all the streaming services, primarily because on that day there were two albums that I was gonna listen to and review that came out that day. So I'm like, well, these will still be here, but I got to get these done first. And then I listened to Fear Inoculum. I believe I listened to that when I was like in Europe or something for the first time, just 'cause I wanted to see what it was. And after hearing that lead single for the first time, were those initial nerves on the album, did they change a little bit, or did you still have those initial nerves of how this album was going to turn out?
So Fear Inoculum, that was the song that really sort of set my expectations. And like I've mentioned before, I wasn't a huge Tool album at that time. But I was familiar with their stuff. I was like right in the middle of listening to their album, Undertow. So I was like right at the beginning. And when I realized that Fear Inoculum was out, I was a bit skeptical, but I wanted to listen to it just so I could sort of dip my toes in the water, if you will. And after I listened to it, that's when my nerves slowly started to settle in. Like, oh no, are they going to come back a completely different band, or are they going to be the same Tool that we know? But as I listened to the other albums more, then I started to think, oh well, you know, they changed their sound up a little bit in each album, so I don't know. I was still really nervous because I was like, okay, what should I expect? So yeah.
Yeah, that's very true, and it's a hard balance for any band to make when it comes to certain sounds. It's you don't want to always have the exact same sound all the way through, because then people are going to think you become monotonous and boring and uncreative. Because I've seen bands that get called that, and I know some of my friends, they don't really care for Breaking Benjamin because they think they have the exact same sound all throughout. I'm like, they tweak it very subtly, but they found a formula that works for them, that creates good music, so I'm in for it. But then you get bands that sometimes will just completely change up their sound from one album to another, and it just messes with fans' minds, and some people don't like it just because it's like, well, you're good at this, but then you went completely one other way. However, with Tool, you are correct in saying it's like their sound changes up a little bit between one album to the next. And it sounded like the majority of the bass Tool sound was still going to be there, but it was going to be, again, a little bit different due to the fact that, again, the last album came out in 2006. It's been 13 years, and music has drastically changed since 2006.
Right. Like, very drastically.
Not that, but also with the lives of, the four members of the band.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's, I guess that's another reason why I was nervous about them changing their sound. Because ever since I first started listening to metal, I've noticed that sounds have been changing. Things have been added into the metal scene. So I guess, like, I thought they were going to try to come back and match the sound of another popular band, or if they were just going to try to stay the same, or if they were just going to meet in the middle somehow.
Overall, I think they end up staying the same, but they just put a little bit of a twist on it.
Yeah, right.
And after Fear Inoculum, I'm saying the lead single, not the whole album, but this after the lead single dropped. I was looking online to see what people were saying about it, naturally, because I'm curious. And the nerves for how this album was going to be taken, there was a murmur of uncertainty still. It was, okay, we can hear one track. It was, people kind of liked it. Some people kind of really didn't like it. But there was just a murmur of, is this going to be what we hoped for? Is this going to be what we feared? You still didn't know.
Right. Just a lot of unsettling nerves within the fan groups online.
Yeah, but again, since the album has dropped and after, a couple of days of it being out in the open and seeing what people are saying about it, I'm seeing mostly positive reception.
Right. I've sort of stayed away from group discussion, given the fact that it is release weekend, and I wanted to sort of step back and let people, really listen to the album before quickly jumping into discussion, because that's a problem that you see nowadays. Is you'll see people who will only listen to the album once and then immediately turn around and get on their computer and start writing a review without even giving themselves the time to sit down, listen to it again, really gain their thoughts on it before jumping into discussion.
Exactly, and I agree with that 100%. So what I did on the album release day because this Wage War's Pressure came out the exact same day as Fear Inoculum, and I ended up listening to Pressure first. I woke up at 4:45 in the morning to try and listen through it twice and get a good idea of what my review was going to be before I had to leave for work. And I ended up pulling that off, and I didn't. Then I did Fear Inoculum, and I waited an hour after I was done with the Fear Inoculum one. Then I finally went online and was starting to discuss it because I had time to really listen to both albums twice through, once in a just complete listen through just to get the vibe of the album, and then to take it song by song and really analyze it that way, which is how I pretty much normally do my album reviews. And then I was able to be kind of cemented in okay, do I really feel this way about this? And then once I was set and ready to go, then I jump online and see what other people are talking about and have those discussions. Because with I'll throw Wage War in there as an example because there were parts of it that I disagreed with heavily, and there were parts where fans online really loved. So
Right.
I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that if I'm going to bring this up, I know exactly why I feel that way, if I'm then confident in it. And then I said, okay, they're like, oh, we love this song. I'm like, well, I thought that song was one of the worst songs on the record, but why did you really like it? And then they explained why they really liked it. They asked me why I really dislike it. And there might have been something where it's they had this huge opportunity, because I know there's one song, they had this huge opportunity where they could have brought in some unclean vocals, and it really would have upped the profile of the whole entire song, because it would have added this depth of anger to it, and animosity, and just kind of anger of fear and not knowing. And
Right.
it just wasn't there. I thought it was a huge missed opportunity, because what they were talking about in the song and how you took it, because you and I think the same exact meaning from the song, we've both been through that kind of a situation, and this other person felt that it was great because of their situation. Mine, I thought it was not the best way representation of it, but then again, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to get out of. That's what I want to discuss with people, because then I get to not only see what they really think about the music and see what their connection is, but then we get to know more about each other when it comes down to being people.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I would have to agree 100% because everybody has their own interpretations of music, and that's also why I like discussing music with people, because I get to learn about how they take it, and it leads down to what you said ultimately. How they take it, and how it sort of shows what they've been through and how we can learn about each other. And I just think, yeah, that's a great part of discussing music with people.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was younger, because I was much more into sports than it was music, it was talking about sports with people. It was so much more black and white when it came to what people's opinions were. And if you it's I live in Wisconsin, but grew up a Minnesota Vikings fan, so I
Right.
get ridiculed heavily for everything.
Right.
And I'll put it this way: I gotta say this though. It's that whole entire experience really helped me out with all of this stuff, with discussing music and doing the My Song of the Day stuff. Because anytime I get criticism, I always think there is nothing worse. Nobody can say anything that's worse than the kind of stuff my brother would say and do to me due to the fact that I was a Vikings fan when we were kids. So I always thank
Right.
him for that, because I'm like, well, it made me tough. But I look at it where if I was discussing sports with somebody, it's if you're a fan of one team, I'm a fan of another team, there's always that animosity, and you can never really get into somebody's mind with it. When it comes to music and discussing it, you can like different bands and you can disagree on things, but you can get into so much more depth and reasoning behind why people actually connect with those songs,
Right.
because it's an emotional thing.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm actually the exact opposite of you. I'm growing up in Minnesota, but I'm a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay.
And every day when every day when I went to school, I would get ridiculed for that heavily as well. But the thing is, in football, you can't like a bunch of teams, because if you like a bunch of teams, you're considered a bandwagon. But whereas in music, you can like as many different bands as you want, and like you said, you get to discuss and actually get your reasoning out. Whereas back to football, you can't even get your reasoning out for why you like the team because, oh, you live in this state, you're required to like this team. You cannot like another state's team because you have to like this team.
Yeah, and I've gotten like, oh, why do you like them? And I start explaining the story of why I like the Vikings. It's like, oh, that's not right. It's like, well, like when I was younger, I still like watching the Packers every now and then because Brett Favre was playing and Brett Favre was so much fun to watch.
Right.
And now it's just kind of like, well, he's not there, so, eh. But then again,
Yeah.
that's just kind of my take on that. But I want to just jump into the fact that you're in Minnesota, but growing up and you grew up a Packers fan. Because I remember, did that help you with when it came to just becoming confident in your, like in who you are as a person? Because other people would be going like kind of trying to make fun of you or maybe ridicule you for that, and it's just maybe built up this kind of like defense system for you where it's like, yeah, you can say this stuff to me, but I'm so confident in who I am with myself and that I'm confident with that aspect that you can say some stuff to me. You can try and bring me down, but it ain't gonna work.
Right. Exactly. I'm also thankful for this experience of going through elementary school and getting ridiculed for this thing and just getting picked on because it's helped me learn growing up that you're not going to be able to please or you're not going to be able to please everyone. And also because of these experiences, it also helped me discover the type of music I'm into nowadays. To be honest, I'm going to be completely 100% honest with you. My 5th and 6th grade year, I was a diehard hip hop fan. Like, I loved only hip hop. And then right in the middle of my 6th grade year, I was at work with my dad, and I was going through a lot at the time, and I'm just, because I worked with my dad as a summer job. I went and helped him. I would work with him, and he'd always bring along this Bluetooth radio, and he'd hook up his phone to it, and he would always play "Buried Alive" by Avenged Sevenfold. That was the first song he'd always play. And one day I was just sitting there, and I was, this depressed. I was like this depressed kid. I was like, oh, oh this, oh that, moping around and stuff. And I just sat there and I listened to the lyrics. I'm like, hey, I like this. And I just started listening to more and more Avenged Sevenfold, and I just branched off into Slipknot, and I branched off into all these different bands. And then it wasn't until my freshman year-ish when I started diving even deeper into the world of metal. And that's actually when I actually rediscovered Tool. Because I actually discovered them my 7th grade year, and I sort of forgot about them, but I rediscovered them my freshman year.
Interesting. Another question just revolving around that, and I want to thank you for being 100% honest with that because I honestly love hearing that stuff where it's, even when I was younger too, like when I was in 4th and 5th grade, I really didn't care that much for music, and I was more or less listening to whatever the rest of the crowd was just to try and fit in. But then I think it was like 6th or 7th grade, I'm playing Guitar Hero. I was like, yeah, screw this, because this is what I grew up listening to and really getting into was 80s rock and 70s rock with my mom and dad. But then all of a sudden I played Stricken by Disturbed for the first time and I was hooked. So, but the question I want to ask you is since you've become a big like rock music fan, a big metal fan, and I know it's in terms of younger generations, even including my generation, generations younger, that kind of music isn't necessarily as prevalent amongst people. And I know how people in middle school and high school can be. Have you ever been, maybe picked on or made fun of or ridiculed for your taste in music since you've gone to rock and metal?
Yes, and I will be 100% honest. Yes, I have. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say picked on, but I think there was maybe like once or twice maybe where I was actually picked on. But now that you've brought this up, I remember a story where I really was questioned about it. I wasn't picked on, but I was questioned. I remember it would have been my 8th grade English class, and I remember my teacher was like, okay, I want you guys to pick a topic, and I want you to explain the stages. I want you to explain the stages of a topic. For example, a war. What were the stages of this war? How it got started, the war itself, and then the ending of the war, something like that. And instantly, I was trying to be this edgy 8th grader, which I wasn't. I was an idiot. But anyway, me trying to be this edgy 8th grader, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do the history of heavy metal. So I remember doing this big presentation on like the start of heavy metal where I listed off all the bands. I remember playing a sample of a Black Sabbath song, and my whole class just sitting there like, what is this? And I remember afterwards we were supposed to take questions from the class. I remember the first question I got was, why do you like heavy metal so much? Because I would always talk about metal. I would always be talking to my friends about metal when they were all talking about hip hop. And I just remember standing there and just going, I don't know, I just like the music. And that same classmate's like, well, it's just a bunch of noise. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, the reason I was asking about that is just because I have similar stories of that when I was in middle school and early in high school. Like early in high school, I played soccer, so I knew the kids on my team, but I didn't really have many friends. And I think most of the reason was because I ended up connecting with people right away that more or less liked my music. Like the friend I mostly hung around with my freshman year of high school was a huge Slipknot fan. And at the time, my favorite band was Disturbed, so there was an instant connection right there. And it was like that, oh, he's hanging out with those people kind of thing, which, of course, looking back on it, I mean, I didn't really care that much then, but I look back at it, I'm like, I didn't even care that much, but I should have cared a lot less.
Right.
Over the fact of it. And even when I was in 8th grade as well, to kind of just, I know I've told this story maybe on this podcast like a couple times beforehand, but it was, I brought Disturbed's Indestructible in because it was like, oh, during this like 45-minute resource time, everyone can bring in an album for like one day and you can listen to it. I said to make sure, my mom like bought me the album when it came out. I loved it. It was my favorite Disturbed album. And the whole entire thing was just don't play Deceiver because David Draymond says fucking it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, okay, got it. It's the third song. I was gonna skip it. We went through Indestructible, then Inside the Fire, and then my teacher pulled the CD and said, "I need to speak with you after class." I'm thinking, great. And it was everyone kind of was like I had a kid that would bully me in middle school, and he really kind of latched on that because it was early in the year, and one of my friends hadn't beat the crap out of him basically up to that point. So I did get picked on for that a little bit, but I was still so into it that you weren't taking me out of it.
Right. I have a similar thing with you. My freshman year, I was hanging out with this guy in my class who is a huge Slipknot fan. He still is, but I'm a diehard Avenged Sevenfold fan. So we'd always sort of talk, and I'd try. Actually once, I went up not to him, but to his younger brother, and I was wearing my Avenged Sevenfold t-shirt, and he noticed it, and he goes, Avenged Sevenfold, hey, those are the guys from Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I remember on the inside, I died a little, because I'm like, oh, that's the only Avenged Sevenfold song you know? He's like, yeah, I've heard their Call of Duty stuff. I'm just like, okay.
What was the song that they had on Call of Duty?
Carry On.
Okay.
It was a Black Ops song. Actually, their Black Rain EP is a compilation of all their Call of Duty music that they've written.
Okay, because I know for me and my generation, a lot of us found out about Avenged Sevenfold through Guitar Hero 2. Because in the eighth set they had Beast and the Harlot on there, and everyone remembers the intro to that. Like you can put it in anywhere. Everyone's like, oh, I know exactly what song that is. Especially if you're between the ages of like 21 and 28.
I actually didn't discover. I already told you how I discovered Avenged Sevenfold, but like, I was never really big into Call of Duty growing up, so that's sort of where I also didn't fit in. But I mean, that and my dad just loved metal, so he'd always be playing rock music whenever we were doing something or stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And now because I think you said you were still in high school when we last talked. Like,
right.
Are you a junior or senior or?
I'm a junior.
Okay, so you still got 2 more years to go.
Right.
And do you think that your fandom when it comes to metal is going to become more deep rooted through that? You're just going to really get into it more, or how do you think that's going to end up playing out?
Let's see here. It branches off every year. It's branched off every year I've listened to metal. I obviously first started off with hard rock, so to speak, like some lighter Avenged Sevenfold. I listened to some Five Finger Death Punch. I listened to some more of the hard rock stuff. And then I sort of forgot about Avenged Sevenfold and all the metal, and I listened to a lot of punk rock. Green Day, Nirvana, Jimmy Eat World. I don't even know if you'd consider them punk rock, but
Jimmy Eat World's more pop punk.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Jimmy Eat World's more pop punk. I take that back. So yeah, Green Day. I listened to a lot of Green Day, but I was a bigger fan of Sunny Day Real Estate.
Oh, nice.
And I wasn't even like I loved Sunny Day Real Estate. They were like my favorite band my 7th and 8th grade year. I loved Sunny Day Real Estate. And then I got into, the hard rock again. I sort of kicked it back up, and then I got into metal. And then immediately, I think I made a rookie mistake by branching right off into the path of death metal. And then I went right into thrash metal, and then melodic death metal, and then I got into screamo and metalcore and all that good stuff. And then I discovered Nickelback and regretted it all. But that's a different.
That is one band I've never featured as a song of the day, and I don't plan on it.
I've noticed that. I'm like, wait a second, what is this, Kevin? Where's Nickelback? I'm like, this guy's smart.
I've thought about this plenty of times, and the only time I may ever put them on is on April Fool's Day, just because it would make a lot of sense. But then again, it's like, but then I'm also playing Nickelback, so.
Yeah, then you're risking a Nickelback song. It's funny because I actually met one of my best friends because of a Nickelback song.
Really?
Yeah, it was at a school dance, and he was sitting at one of the tables screaming Rockstar, and I came right over, and I started screaming the lyrics with him, and that's how we became friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
But anyway, that's besides the point. I mean, I heard Nickelback once, and I regretted it. I'm just sitting here like, what is this?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I don't care for Nickelback. I know a couple people that really do like Nickelback. I don't care for them, so I'm not going to feature them as a song of the day. But if there are people that like Nickelback, you know what? More power to them.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm not just going to sit and diss Nickelback fans. Like, sure, I might sit and diss Nickelback, but if you like Nickelback, okay, cool, whatever you fancy, but I mainly don't like them because I just think Chad Kroeger is full of himself, to say the least.
From what I've seen, a lot of people think that way as well.
I have no respect for Chad whatsoever, mainly because of the whole Slipknot thing where he decided to go after Slipknot, and that sort of made me think, wow, okay, this guy thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. So that's what sort of made me think, okay, I don't really like these guys.
Way to drop that 90s reference. My God.
Which one was that?
The all that in a bag of chips?
Yeah, that's a saying I use all the time. I use that expression just out of the blue.
Nice. Bringing back the nostalgia. It was like because now apparently like fanny packs have become a huge thing. My best friend started wearing them like 3 years ago, and I'm like, he's like, dude, they're gonna become a thing again, and I just said, hell no. Now they're everywhere, and I just look at them like, okay, what's next?
Avenged Sevenfold released their own fanny pack, so I'm like, you know what? $60 is worth it. Actually, it's not 60; it's like $40 on their black market, but still, I mean.
If you feel like getting it, go and get it. I mean, there's some things like that I've seen that I end up have tried to get, or trying to think of one of them. Well, because one of the other followers on Instagram, she sent me one of those Disturbed Israel flags.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that is one of the coolest things ever. So I'm gonna try and go get that sign when I go see Disturbed. But then I'm trying to think of some other ones. I was looking on trying to get something. I was looking on something on Amazon or something. I was also talking with people on Instagram, and there's this one person who I always see pop up on certain things I'm searching up, and then I've had conversations with him. The kid's a huge Skillet fan, and
Yeah.
he was talking about how he wanted to get a copy of their like graphic novel that was coming out. But
Yeah.
he's like, oh, it's like he says it was a struggle to get it or something because he lives in a different country that they've had some problems with getting mail coming in and out. So I just said screw it, and I just ordered it for him. I'm like, you know what? Let's just see what happens there. You know, why not? And the reason behind that was like I know how much it means to this kid, and all of a sudden it's like, well, if it really means a lot to you, you know, why not go and get it?
Right. Exactly.
And I felt the same way about concerts as well. It's like, well, oh shoot, like look at this show that's coming out. Do I want to go see it? Yeah. Am I going to spend the money on it? Yep. So, going. Now I got to see if I want to go and see Tool when they come to town because it's on Halloween night.
Oh shoot. Yeah. There are no major concerts coming to my area. The last big one was the Twins of Evil tour. Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson. Actually, I take that back. The next big concert is Ghost.
So what area? Because you said it's Minnesota. What area of Minnesota?
Southwest.
Okay.
So I live like right near the Iowa border, just in the lower corner of Minnesota.
All right. Well, perfect enough. I've got one of my University of Minnesota t-shirts on while we're recording this. So, haha, this is perfect.
This is perfect.
But okay, because I was trying to think if you were closer to the Twin Cities, I know there's a couple of bigger shows coming their way rather soon, especially
Right.
that Day to Remember I Prevail Beartooth one.
Oh yeah, that one, the Degenerates tour.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can swing getting up there, and then because I'm gonna have to have the day off the next day because a concert's on a Sunday. Have the day off the next day to make sure I can drive home. But
Right.
it's like if I can swing it, I'm doing it.
Right. That's why I requested the day after the Marilyn Manson Rob Zombie concert off, because I knew for a fact I wasn't going to be able to make it to work that day. Not because I would have been drunk or anything, just because I would have been tired.
That's the way to go about it. Plus, here's the other thing I always think about too with concerts. It's because I've got other concerts I go to. Like, I've got one next week Tuesday actually, which is freaking awesome. But it's like it's on a Tuesday, and it's the second day of my new full-time job that I'm going to be at. So I'm still doing this, but I just got a different full-time job. It's like, yeah, so I'm going to be going to the show, and then I'm going to go to work the next day. It's like, oh, once you be tired, once you be burnt out, yeah, maybe. But here's the thing to remember. What am I going to remember about like the next week or the week after that? Am I going to remember, what'd you do that night? Oh, I watched TV and slept. You're not going to remember that. You remember going to a concert? Fuck yeah, you are.
Right. I'm actually trying to see if I could grab some tickets for the Slayer show.
Ooh. I actually get to go see Slayer in week and a half.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, because they're playing at Riot Fest in Chicago, and I bought tickets for Riot Fest in Chicago for the Saturday show, basically because I want to see Rise Against again. That was my main purpose. And Slayer starts 5 minutes after Rise Against ends their set, so yeah, I'm gonna go see Slayer. Not missing that now.
Rise Against, I respect your opinion, but Rise Against is one of those bands that just, it just doesn't really. Their music doesn't really sit well with me, to be honest with you.
I'm just kidding. Why is that?
So I like to connect music. I think everyone does though, but I like to connect music with memories. And I remember the summer of 17 when I was getting back into the metal phase. After I saw Chevelle, I was like big into rock and all of their music, and I was binging the CDs I got at the show autographed. I'm just binging them. And I remember I was a huge, gamer at that time too. I'd stay up till like 6 a.m. playing video games with my friends. And I was online on PS4, and I knew this one guy who liked rock. And his favorite band is Rise Against. And the guy was an absolute douche, He was just full of himself. He was a jerk. But I didn't want to be rude and completely block him from my life. I still wanted to be a friend to him because there were times where he was fairly nice. But that's besides the point. Anyhow, I remember for like a week straight, he would make me stay up till like 6 a.m. trying to unlock achievements in his game. And whenever I try to go to bed, he gets super mad. And of course, in the background, he would always be playing Rise Against, these same tracks over and over. And to me, that would make me want to bash my head against a wall. And whenever I'd ask him, hey, do you think we could listen to some of this? He'd go, no, let's listen to this. And he'd play the same song he just got done playing. It was like, oh my God, I'd much rather go and listen to nails on a chalkboard at this point. Like, when I first heard him, I was actually like really impressed. I'm like, hey, wow, these guys are good. And after like the 5th time he was playing a song, I'm just like, oh Lord. So that's my reasoning behind it.
I mean, I'm not going to bash you for your reasoning, because if someone were to do that to me with a band that probably wasn't Rise Against or Disturbed or something like that, because of how much I really like those bands, I'll use Avenged Sevenfold as the example for this one. Like if I was in the exact same scenario, but the music would have been Avenged Sevenfold and have been like the same song, like 5 or 6 songs over and over and over again, I probably would end up feeling the exact same way you do. So I can't knock you for that, because again, when it comes to music, a lot of the connection is based off an emotional connection and like a pre-existing event. That it's like, okay, I don't really want to listen to it because of this. There are certain songs, of course, that I still like. I've listened to them since some event happened that makes me not want to listen to them, just due to the amount of emotion behind them and the connection that I have to those songs.
Right.
So I listen to them a lot less. I mean, I've listened to them here and there, but I just don't listen nearly as much anymore.
Right.
But maybe, like, I would think about it's like, maybe I will later down the line when all of a sudden that's completely, that memory is a lot more diluted.
Right, exactly. And I'm not going to sit here and knock you for being a Rise Against fan. Like I've always said, if you like it, you like it. Hey, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah, they've been my favorite band since I was 14. I'm not going to change it now because I still love them.
Well, exactly. I mean, I respect you for that. Props to you, man. Props to you. Like, my favorite band has been Avenged Sevenfold since I was 12. And there have been times where I've questioned it, but I've always been a diehard fan. And one thing I don't like is that I've met some people who have asked me what my least favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs are, and I've told them, and they go, well, you're not a real fan because you don't like some of their songs.
No, it's just, the better way to put it is you're not an apps. They might be saying like you're not a real fan. No, you are a real fan. You're not that fanboy kind of a fan where you worship everything they do and everything they do you believe is pure gold. If you don't like, if they come up with a song that you really don't care for, yeah, you're gonna end up saying it, and it's just doesn't matter if what they think about it. It's like, if you really don't like that song and you present why you don't like that song, then we know where you stand with it.
Right, exactly. Everyone is gonna have their own opinions about certain songs. I mean, to be honest, I don't know why, but the golden fanboys, the ones who, worship the ground they walk, are the ones that I don't really know. They're the ones who I have the most trouble discussing with, because they, like I've said before, they worship the ground they walk. And if you have any opinion that contradicts any of their opinions, it's like all hell is going to break loose.
Oh yeah, very much so, and I have to agree with you on that. But it doesn't only apply to like Avenged Sevenfold or to Rise Against or to any bands. It applies to any singular fandom. It applies to video games. It applies to TV, movies. It's like when use Game of Thrones as the example. When Game of Thrones was coming to an end and people were like going absolutely crazy about it and talking about it, I'm like, well, I don't really watch it. I don't care. And people are just like getting on me, and this happened a lot. People are like, why don't you watch it? It's the greatest show ever. It's like, because I really don't care. It's like, but it's so good. It's like, well, maybe it's just not for me.
I have never seen a single Game of Thrones episode in my entire life, and I've had people come up to me and they're like, I will give you my entire box set to sit down and watch. And I'd look at them and I'd say, I thank you for the offer, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah, thanks for the offer, but like, I'll pass.
Exactly. if, like, for example, if you were a Game of Thrones fan and I've never seen a single episode, I mean, I would respect you, and I'd respect, hey, you're a Game of Thrones fan, cool. But what I would not really respect as much is if you were to all of a sudden start yelling at me and start trying to shove it in my face, like, watch it, watch it, watch it. Then I'd sort of lose respect for you. Just saying. Like, that's what bugs me, is when people are like, do this, do this, do this, because you're not apparently with the times. If you're not a fan of what I'm a fan of, then, well, go and check it out. Like, I don't like feeling forced to have to do something that a person tells me to do. For example, watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump back on that when you were talking about Avenged Sevenfold. When people ask you like what you think they're like worst songs, and you give their opinion, and they say like, "Oh, you're not a real fan." It's like if people are asking the same thing about Rise Against, I pull up. I'm like, if people ask me, was there something you don't like about the band? Like, what songs don't you like? I'll be more than willing to say their album that came out in 2014, The Black Market. I really don't like most of the songs on that album. I thought it was their weakest outing to date.
Right.
And it's like, well, there's still tracks on there that I like. I still listen to those from time to time. But usually when I'm listening to the band, it's like, okay, I'm listening to something off of their most recent release, Wolves, or off of Endgame, or Appeal to Reason. Or I absolutely love everything off of The Sufferer and The Witness. But it's just
Right.
but it's like, when it comes to this specific album, it's like there's like 2 or 3 songs that I probably could listen to right now and be actually like 3. Then I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to these anytime, no matter what. The other ones, it's just kind of, not the biggest fan of these.
Right. Like, for me, my least favorite Avenged Sevenfold album is The Stage. I don't like a lot of those songs, but I mean,
what year did that one come out in?
2016. Wait, I'm wrong. Wait, no. Yeah, 2016.
So it was their most recent release.
Yeah, it was their most recent release. Their most recent.
Okay, and see that's what I love about the fans when you talk to them. It's like your favorite band. Okay, I might actually start doing that. It's like start talking to people, asking what their favorite band's like. Okay, what do you like about that? But like, well, do you have like a least favorite part about them, or some music that you don't like? Just to really also, it's not to just prod them and just see if like what they are. It's like, oh, are you just a regular fan, or are you a fanboy, that kind of thing. I just want to see kind of where their mindset is and why they like the band. It's like, if there's parts they dislike about them, then what really do they dislike about them?
Right, exactly. I mean, then there's the whole different breed of quote unquote fans who wear the shirts just because they think they're cool, but oh well.
You know what? If that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do.
That's what they want to do. But that was actually me at one point. I got a Metallica shirt, and I never heard a single Metallica song until I actually forced myself to do it, just for that reason. I'm like, I don't want to be called a poser.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think right now. I'm like looking through all my T-shirts, thinking about, okay, which one? Like, do I have a T-shirt from a band that I really don't listen to all that much? And like, I don't listen. Like, before this, I really didn't listen to Tool really at all. But I've got a Tool shirt. I've got a Dead Kennedys shirt, and I've really only listened to like really one Dead Kennedys album ever. But I liked it. And then the other one I really don't listen to. I've got an Avenged shirt, and I got a Prince shirt. Which is like, it like, for some people it completely throws them off. It's like, why do you have a Prince shirt? I'm like, well, Prince actually made some really cool music.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we love Prince, but then more the like that hard rock metal community, it's like, if they saw me in a video wearing a Prince shirt, I might get questioned, why are you wearing that shirt? And I just say, there's some of the music that I actually like. And that's just the way it is. It's not necessarily in the genre that I like, but there's some things that he did that it's just like, wow, how do you do that?
Right. It's like, why are you wearing a Prince shirt? It just throws him off guard.
I should start doing that at some point. So you just start collecting some more like really, really random band like shirts of like artists and bands that don't necessarily match up with what I have, and just see what happens.
That'd be great. Just watch the comment section just
blow up.
Just blow up, like, what's going on here?
Well, that's kind of I do have some that people are like, wait, what? But then again, now everyone who's been kind of following my stuff, they know it's like if they see me wearing a 30 Seconds to Mars shirt, it's like, well, yeah, he likes the band, so there's no, ifs, ands, or buts about, oh, it's just something he likes. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Whereas if you come on the show wearing a Prince shirt, and people are gonna question it more.
Yeah, or if all of a sudden, like, say I came on and I wore like a Lady Gaga shirt, and people are like, "Why are you wearing a Gaga shirt?" I'm like, "Oh, just for shits and gigs." See, if there's something like I really don't listen to their music, but I was wearing a shirt, and my reasoning was for shits and gigs, I would, and people ask me for it, that would be my response to the comments. Would be like, "Oh, shits and gigs."
Shits and gigs. Just an entire series of episodes where you're just wearing a shirt that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of just random shirts I'm looking at right now that would not make any sense if I started wearing them during videos. So I might start doing that for the next month, but I don't know if I want to because I usually am like, oh, just feel like wearing this shirt today, and all of a sudden, oh, no, I'm wearing this one, and I've got to shoot a video today. Okay, we're wearing this black T-shirt, whatever.
It's a bold move.
Instead of wearing my a T-shirt I have with a giraffe on it, and then the saying is "Moo, I'm a horse."
Yeah. Again, it's a real bold move to do. Just try to experiment with that.
I mean, it would be fun. I totally should give it a shot. Maybe not for a whole month, but like start sprinkling them in very sparingly just to see what happens.
Yeah, just to see if people notice. I mean, just to see if, I don't know who would pay attention to detail like that, but it'd be cool to see who does.
Oh, I know a couple people that definitely would be paying attention to detail that much.
It just depends if you make the shirt like a super bright color and make it obvious.
Well, I think that because I had one from Mars Island that is like, it's bright neon, and I wore it during my recap video from that whole entire experience. But then again, it makes sense because it was from that event, and I was doing a video about that event. So it couldn't throw anybody off just due to the fact that everyone knew what, like, kind of it was going to end up coming. But
Right.
if I wore, let's just say, or there was one that I've tried it once before, and no one called me, and no one like said anything about it, but I was wearing a shirt that my best friend got me like 4 or 5 years ago, where he found this picture of him and me, and he put it on a T-shirt and he gave it to me for my birthday. And I think it's on an IGTV video, and it is just it's like he's got like one of those like old like umbrella hats on, and he's just poking me in the cheek, and I look just so unenthused.
That's awesome.
It's like I should start doing that instead. It's like, oh, maybe have like those kind of absolute random T-shirts, like with random pictures of maybe even just myself from like when I was a kid.
Awesome.
Now that would be like a little series, and all of a sudden people are like, what kind of shirts are these? It's like, oh, I was just having fun. So here's a picture of me when I was 7 in the bathtub with all the bubbles, and all you can see is like my face. Because all of a sudden I probably would get a comment like, whose kid is that? I'm like, that is me.
Yeah, you're gonna get someone who's gonna start freaking out and like, wait a sec, what is this?
And then all of a sudden CNN picks it up. It's like, this Instagram profile, my song today, Rock 2000 Day. The person on there featured a shirt with a kid in a bathtub. Now all you can see is the kid's face, but we're not sure if the parents of this kid consented to this. And I'd go, can I respond to this? Yeah, the parents didn't have to consent to it because the kid is over 18 at this point, and that kid is me.
And then just awkward silence in their studio where they're just sitting there like
what are we supposed to do with this? I'm like, yeah, I literally took a picture of me, put it on a T-shirt, and was wearing it during one of my videos. It's like, well, I must have consented to it because I did it.
They're just sitting there in their studio, and they're just like, well.
Could you imagine the amount of press I would get off of something like that? That'd be absolutely insane.
Yeah, that would be like, oh my God. That'd be funny. Just, I don't know, where you wear a shirt that has a picture of yourself as a kid on it, and then, the media takes it the wrong way, and then it starts spreading, and then you just release a statement like, that kid is me. And then you just quickly watch one by one the links get taken down off the internet and just...
Well, I feel like what ended up happening is like the rock music, like initially, like the people in the rock music and the metal community would start recognize like there's some story about this. They'd look into it, and then they'd see the response from it and just absolutely go insane for like this is absolutely hilarious. Like this kid completely got the media. They trolled him hilariously. And
Got
then all of a
him.
sudden it's like, okay, now we want to see what this kid has and what this guy has, what he's doing. Then they look at my stuff and it's like, okay, we actually like what he has. Let's follow him and let's be a part of the community. Now that would be awesome, but
Then they changed the metal news. Authors might even change or might even write an article about that.
I might get a feature on Loudwire or Kerrang or something.
Like metal, what is it? Instagram metal personality trolls entire media.
They'd probably more go hard rock personality because I kind of focus more on that. But I think again, I think the majority of the like even like metal fans would be like, that's actually kind of funny. Let's go take a look at this.
Like, let's see what this guy has to offer.
And then you start looking at some of my videos, and it's like, yeah, I talk a lot, and I put out a lot of information about what I think about music. But usually, it's like some of my most of my videos, at least at one point during the video, I'm doing something a little crazy or a little silly. Which most time is like I'm like trying to like I take off my hat and I flip it up in the air. And I want to see if I can catch it on my head right before the end of the video, and I usually end up getting hit in the face with the brim, so it always makes for a good time.
Yeah, it's usually a good time.
Might have a plan to go viral now, all because of that T-shirt idea. Well, everyone, you heard it here first. We're doing this somehow.
Yeah, you heard it here first. This is the spark that ignites the flame.
This is the inception of it all.
This is where it begins. And so it begins.
You gotta just get like epic voice, and so it begins, and then just have some kind of like you're supposed to just.
And then if people start accusing you, you just go back to this podcast and you like pull up this clip.
Oh, that'd be absolutely hilarious too. Because if the media was coming at me, it's like I would literally put out this clip and send it to him. It's like, look, like we literally went through this whole entire thing and predicted that this was gonna happen.
Exhibit A. This is all a plot. We knew you were gonna come after us. And then they all just start having like this huge panic attack as they're like, "Oh shit, we've been had."
Yeah, and then like all the like, there's even like a lot of the bands probably be like, okay, that's awesome, that's pretty funny. And then especially if I got like some feature on like some of those more like the more rock oriented and metal oriented websites like again like Loudwire and Kerrang, and I'm trying to think of a couple others off the top of my head, but not coming to me right now. And then all of a sudden people that are in the like those personalities online, like I know like the ARTV, and I'm trying to think of the other one that I was watching a couple of his videos online today. I can't remember. It's punk rock something. I feel so bad that I can't remember who he is. But like they start making videos like, oh, take a look at what this kid did. We like this guy. Maybe you should go give him go see what he's got. And then all of a sudden, there's these larger bands that are like, okay, that was funny. We got to go see what this guy's about. And then.
Right, and then out of nowhere, your page just skyrockets.
And then I end up make enough money off of all this stuff where I can start doing this. This is my job. This is what I do, because that's kind of the goal in this whole entire thing, because this is what I love to do on a daily basis.
Next thing you know, we see you on an episode of Wikipedia Fact or Fiction on Loudwire.
Okay, that would be absolutely hilarious. I'm pretty sure they'd ask me some questions like, okay, this from your childhood, this from like the start of the whole entire thing, a couple of the crazy concert stories that I have, and see if any of them are actually true. And I would hope they would the one to tell me about or like have on the Wikipedia page like, oh, what about the time you lost your shoe? Like, was that a true story? I'm like, oh, I love that story.
And then okay, I could see you get featured on some of those news shows, but I could see you mainly get featured if this whole prediction of the media trying to expose you in a negative way,
Yeah, like, if that happens and this prediction actually comes true somehow, and the fact that we would call it, maybe months in advance. Oh my god. People would probably start coming to me for like, oh, what do you think about like this win? Like, what do you think's gonna happen like 3 months? I'd be like, I don't know. But we got that one right.
That'd be so crazy though. Just out of nowhere, a month later, I'm looking and I see just like a screenshot from one of your videos with the headline, "Hard Rock Instagram personality pedophile question mark." I'm just like, oh god, here we go. It's the beginning.
It's the beginning. I mean, I'll put it this way: if that was like the headline, it would be really tough for the first couple of days because it's like, okay, people start reading that and they start assuming certain things. But then all of a sudden, it's like, no, take a look. It's like, then it's like, no, actually see what the whole entire thing was. It's like, okay, first off, it's a shirt with him as a kid. It's like, it's him. And it's not, it doesn't show anything bad, but it's him. And they completely called that this was going to happen.
You just drop the bombshell of truth. You just drop it, and then the ones who are accusing you, like the ones who are going to hop on the bandwagon and start accusing you, they're going to be the ones who will turn around once you drop the truth, and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Or they'll like turn around and they'll go, oh, yeah, see, we've been fans since day one.
See, and that's where I would end up going all Gary Vaynerchuk on him. It's like, because I would look at it and I would remember who they are and then call them out on it.
They'd be like, yeah, we've been fans since day one, we've been real ones.
Well, because like I've heard like some other artists too. It's like people come and maybe they'll criticize an artist online, and then artists will end up coming back right at them and responding to them and kind of getting angry. And the person's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm such a big fan. I was just hoping for a reaction." It's like, yeah, whatever. And that's just kind of that in the back of their minds, if that artist remembers who that person is and they see him at a concert, they're not going to end up talking to him at all.
Yeah. And that's probably what a majority of those people are gonna be trying to get out of you. It's just a reaction.
Yeah, but if it were to happen, I would literally send them just links to this episode of the podcast, and the fact that it was called out completely. That's all. That'd be my response. It's like, well, look, the response to this whole entire accusation, whatnot, was done months in advance. Before it even happened, because the plan, everything about this is all out there.
You would single-handedly shut down all the controversy and accusations with a single link.
With a single link from months beforehand.
You wouldn't have to, go and sit down and make, a 45-minute video explaining everything with screenshots and proof. You would literally just have to post a link. And the entire thing would get shut down. And just, that's it.
This random idea is already come, the planning for this is already, really going into, insane amount of depth.
The funniest thing of all is we have the start, what would happen during it, and we even have the downfall. So I'm just saying this right now, if this whole plan happens and it actually follows suit, I would literally be like, well, I'm a part of history.
You'd be part of some really wacky and insane history that could potentially become something large, but we'll see what happens there. I mean, I hope it becomes large, but we'll see how that all ends up.
Don't get excited over shots of accusations now.
No, I'm not getting excited over shots of accusations, but it's, again, that's just, if that were to happen, that'd just be adversity that end up having to go through.
It's always cool to discover the what ifs. The what ifs.
No matter how wacky and insane those what ifs are.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool to explore them and just think about all the possibilities, because that's what you got to do when you have a page like yours. That's slowly it's slowly growing by the day.
Yeah, you got to be ready for anything.
Yeah. It's important to recognize and make sure that that, okay, this is a possibility. How am I going to approach it? What am I going to do if this happens? It's always good to know.
Yeah, and I am all ready for it, ready to go. No, ain't no one stopping me.
Hell yeah, brother.
No, I did Michael Jackson little.
Wear a Michael Jackson shirt in one of your episodes.
People might freak out about that. It's like, do you even like Michael Jackson? This would be my response. I'm not the biggest Michael Jackson fan. But his best song ever is "Beat It," because "Beat It" is an insanely awesome song, and the feature of Eddie Van Halen on the guitar was a great choice. That would, if people were asking me, it's like, yeah. Well, my dad was his second favorite band of all time is Van Halen, so it's like it was anytime you hear that Eddie Van Halen guitar, it was so distinct that there was no missing it. Like I knew exactly when it was coming. I knew exactly what it was.
Forgot about that feature. Holy shit.
Dropping knowledge on you, Logan. Boom.
Wow, I learned something. And school starts in 2 days and I've already learned something.
Well, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be on your first day of school.
Right on.
I made a little intro. I mean, if you listen to the intro when it drops, you'll hear it's like, oh, for all the people coming to the first day of school, you know.
Oh, okay.
I've actually made something about that, and there was I was looking for like songs of the day to feature on the first day of school, and there was a song I was gonna feature on there, but then I looked at I'm like, for the first day of school, that might not be the best choice.
What song were you gonna pick?
Oh, I'm not even gonna go into that.
Oh.
I looked at him like, oh Lord, I didn't even think of that, and I'm like, okay, let's move that. I'll put it this way. I moved it to another song during that week, but it's not on the first day of school. So for the first day of school for everybody, the song I end up going with was I'm going with "Are You Ready" by Disturbed to kind of get everyone into the mode like, let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that motivation because this week, or last week, I should say, however you want to look at it, was really busy for me actually, because I was working all week on getting transferred, so I'm going to an entirely new school. So, yeah.
So then it looks like I may have gone from like, this is horrible, like what I was gonna pick just based off of the context of what the song could go into and what I actually thought the song was going into. So if I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna go with let's go with "Are You Ready" by Disturbed, because that's just gonna be the amp up, let's go and just like for the school year, let's go and kick some ass academically and be confident in who we are as people. And if people are gonna try and put us down, just be like, whatever.
Yeah, try to spare my GPA this year.
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna start out on a good note.
Right, exactly. I'm glad you picked that rather than the song you were gonna pick. It sounds like you would have regret that.
Oh, I would have easily, but I'll put it this way. I did pick it at some point in that week, so I've got it somewhere sprinkled in that week. It's actually on that Sunday. It's one of my favorite songs to come out this year so far. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna, because we've been on for about almost an hour and a half now.
All right.
I've got two more questions regarding the Tool album before we'll send you on your way, and we'll make sure that you go and kick ass in the school year.
Right on, man.
Alrighty, so I actually got three questions. So when it comes to Fear Inoculum as the album itself, what did you like about the album? Like, what was your favorite part about the album?
My favorite part of the album would have to be the similar sound, like I've mentioned earlier in our conversation. I was obviously worried about them completely changing the sound, but it was a huge sigh of relief to plug in my headphones and click play on the album and hear a similar Tool sound. So that is what I like most about the album.
Okay, where I'm gonna go with that is because I've already talked about Tempest as the song and that harder sound. They went with that one, but I think that one of the things I really liked about this one was for the hour and a half runtime. When I listened to it the first time through, and I was just focusing on how the album sounded, I just wanted to get the full feel of it. It was really easy to really just get lost in this album. It wasn't something where it was, because again, for that long runtime, at first I thought, am I gonna have to just slug through this for how long it was? But it really just, I got lost in it. It was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, it was quite the pleasant experience to listen to this album and explore every song for the first time.
All right, and then on the flip side of that, because I know we talked about how those instrumental songs really weren't. I know we both weren't big fans of those. Was there anything else besides that you really didn't like on this album?
Um, it's a somewhat small nitpick, I know, but the duration of the songs is one thing I didn't really like.
Just for what specific reason?
Um, I thought about this. To be fair, or to be straight up, I'm not a big fan of long songs. I like songs that, have a good intro, and just are good throughout and then end on a strong note. I just sort of felt, I mean, this, like we were talking about Tempest, or, or we talking about Tempest, for
Yeah,
example.
because with that's plus 15-minute runtime.
I just felt like that sort of dragged on. I felt, I felt kind of bored. I found it kind of difficult to stay engaged throughout the entirety of the song.
Okay, and again, that makes total sense from the way that you put it out there. So, again, that's even if you said like kind of nitpicky. That's sometimes you're gonna if that's the way it's got to be. That's the way it's got to be. The
Right.
one other thing outside of those instrumental songs that I really didn't like about this album, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier too, but it's a little bit different. And there was certain monotony to the longer songs that had all the vocals in them
Right.
that I really didn't like. And because on those 6 songs, they all started out incredibly slow and were building up to building up to the when it would end up maybe the tempo would up or the sound would get harder. They always started out slow and they always slowly built in every
Right.
single one of them. And I couldn't really stand that due to the fact that it just sounded repetitive for the intro, and it's just I'm like, can we get something else? Because there was a point it was the first time I went through it, it was really easy to get lost in it, but when I was going through song by song, after a while I like, wait a minute, I'm gonna end up rage quitting at one point because it's so monotonous. But then I was almost at the end, and then I got to Tempest, and I love the hard sound on it, so I'm like, okay, I'm not rage quitting on this one.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Alrighty, and then last last kind of question and topic is, if you had to rate this album on a scale of 0 to 10, and 0 being the absolute worst, like falling off a waterfall 50 feet down onto some rocks, and versus a 10, which is I'm trying to think of something that'd be really awesome in comparison to that, like shoot, I'm trying to think what would be a good one for like a 10 on that one. Like a 10, but like a 10 being at like the most majestic waterfall ever. The water's the perfect temperature. You're jumping off like falling like 30, 40 feet into the water and just like making big splash and everyone's having a good time. As weird as that sounds, that's kind of where I'm going with this. So on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you rate this album?
Personally, I would rate this album, I have to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Ooh, you and I are real close on that. I went just a tidbit higher and I went 7.
All right. All right.
Now, do you think that this was? I mean, how I put it always was, I thought this as an album for Tool's albums. I thought the album was very serviceable to where the hardcore fans would end up enjoying it, and the not hardcore fans or the casual fans would also enjoy it to a certain point. But overall, I did not think that this was their best album to date.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but I mean, at least it was something that got out there,
It was something that got out there, and I still I think don't get me wrong, I think it's a good album. I just don't think it's their best. But it's something
exactly.
where it's what can I see myself going back and listening to this album and not having it feel like a chore just because that hour and a half runtime. It's going to depend upon the circumstance, but I could easily still see that happening.
Right. Right. I agree.
Alrighty, well, we just did like an hour and a half on Tool and then just some, life stuff and that insanely random, but now potentially happening t-shirt media craziness and just gain a whole bunch of exposure going viral idea.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of excited for it because that could be that. I mean, there'd be a lot of crap going on there, but the end result could be insanely awesome.
The end result could make your career.
It could also it could potentially break it too, but you know what? Sometimes you got to take those chances.
Yeah, exactly. You only live once. You gotta take that chance.
Yeah, and also it's like don't take life too seriously. No one ever gets out alive.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right, bud. Well, I'm going to let you go on this one. It was great talking to you. Maybe we'll have you back on, maybe 9 months to a year, maybe at the end of the school year and just kind of see where you're sitting at that point and kind of go from there.
Sounds good, man.
All right. It was great having you on and best of luck in your junior year of high school this year.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for being on. Rock on, bud.
You too.
All right. So that was Logan, and that was a fantastic conversation, not gonna lie, especially the idea that we came up with. Ooh! So if you see me wearing a t-shirt with a picture of like some little kid on it that looks weird, it's gonna be a picture of me when I was a kid. Alrighty, so we went over that Tool album in detail, and then we kind of bounced around between like when we went through it in detail, then we went on our own tangent, and then we ended up concluding his interview with us with what'd you like, what'd you dislike, overall, that kind of stuff. The other album I'm going to speak about just very quickly before I get into what else I want to talk about is the Wage War album called Pressure. Now, this was their third release overall, and to put it best, I was disappointed in this album. Now, before you go, whoa, why were you disappointed in this album? Let me speak the truth. So when I heard the singles on this album, because it was Who I Am, Prison, Me Against Myself, and Low, I was looking at this as, I'm thinking this album could be insanely good. I loved the singles on this album, specifically Me Against Myself, because it was more of that hard rock style, but then it had a couple, like a very small feature of those unclean vocals. And I thought, yeah, this is what is awesome. I'm like, this is a great song. The vocal structure is perfect. I love that choice as a potential Song of the Year candidate. Me Against Myself. I did like Who I Am as like kind of like the kickoff when I first found out about the album, when they first announced it, even though Low was already a single at that point, and Prison, I liked that. But there are a couple, let me scroll down here to take a look at the likes and dislikes, because I did a whole entire thing on this. So what I liked about the Wage War album Pressure was they had this theme of overcoming adversity and overcoming obstacles within your own mind. So like overcoming depression, overcoming anxiety, becoming comfortable with who you are. And I love that as a theme because it's taken the correct way. And I think the correct way is how Gary Vaynerchuk would put it out there. So if you want to find the correct way when it comes to being confident in yourself and not letting anybody else really dictate that. So it's like, not letting anybody else dictate your specific happiness, or letting someone, what's the best way to put it? Letting somebody else's opinion of you drive who you are. So it's like, like if, you're trying to go after one thing and someone else in your life that says, oh no, I don't want you after that one thing. I want you to follow my specific plan for you. And you're going to go this one way. No, don't do it. Go your way. So I liked how that whole entire theme went around there. And again, like I said, I like the singles, that metalcore style on Who I Am, the hard rock approach on Pressure, the beauty and great construction of everything that was Me Against Myself, and the mixing between the clean and unclean vocals on Low. I loved it. And the band did try a couple of new things here, and I'm glad they did. I'm glad they went and tried, because it shows a willingness to experiment, and they stuck to their core ideals and sounds. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I like to see when you experiment, because you got to always try something, because you never know when you're going to strike lightning in a bottle, like Disturbed covering The Sound of Silence, when like something like that. You never know when that's going to happen. But there were a couple of things I really disliked about this album. And I listened to it right away when it came out. Like, I woke up early in the morning, so I get the album review done before I had to go to my last day at my full-time job at that time. And I couldn't get the album's identity. Like, it didn't really know what it wanted to be. I mean, it experimented with some new sounds, which is, again, applaud them for. But I didn't know what the overall feel of the album really was. I just couldn't really grasp it. It was a little bit all over the place where it didn't necessarily have its own identity. It was a little bit convoluted to my point. And they did miss some opportunities here, which I thought would have really helped. Like on the song Hurt, they had no unclean vocals. And on the song Hurt, which was their sixth song on the album, they dive deep into, in terms of the song and lyric content, they did dive deep into depression and suicide and how those depressed feelings can hurt you to the point where you think that it's never going to end. And I have been there to that point. And the reason why I didn't like the omission of unclean vocals on this one was because I've been there and I've been to that point, and there is, a downtroddenness, but there is an anger that is there that kind of gets you fueled at some points just to try and get out of that. But there also is an anger of just frustration, and those unclean vocals I thought really would have exemplified it. Along with the song Grave as well. So Grave was a song that a lot of people were really liking on this album. I didn't really care for it. But when I looked at it, it's about someone who's kind of wronged you in the past, and they won't recognize what they have done. But now that you're going to drop them from kind of like your life completely because you don't want to have them around anymore, kind of like a toxic person. Again, gone through something like that myself. And I thought adding unclean vocals to that would have just exemplified that anger of you're letting this one person kind of dictate what you're doing, and they don't have any actual power over you except for the power you're giving them in your own mind. And just that frustration and anger towards it. I thought some kind of unclean vocals here would have been worth it, but they didn't really have it in there. The other things I wasn't really big on this album for specifically, I'm going to give it another couple of things. One was the construction was very repetitive. It was a lot of, when they did, I think 8 or 9 of the songs, it was, actually like 8 songs. It was like unclean verse, clean chorus, unclean verse, clean chorus, unclean breakdown, clean chorus. It was very repetitive to that point in terms of construction. So even though they experimented with some sounds and stuff, still the construction ran a little bit together. And I hated how they end it with "Will We Ever Learn?" because the album, in terms of meaning, was so inspiring to try and get out of these certain things. And I thought the ending of this made it sound more defeated. Not like you defeated somebody, it was you were defeated yourself. And I really didn't like the way the tone of that felt. Not only that, but where I say disappointed was because I loved how the singles really set up this album, and I just think they really missed the mark. So overall, I did enjoy this album, but it's not one I'm going to play through on its own. There are a couple of songs I'm going to play, like the singles, Me Against Myself, are definitely going to get some more plays. Fury and Forget My Name are other tunes I'm going to play on this one. I think in terms of growth, this outing was needed by the band, but I think it's potentially going to set themselves up for a make or break 4th album. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. So we're going to stick with that. Yeah. That's my take on Wage War's Pressure. Now, last but not least, I kind of said something previewed this, but I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, right before the podcast was going to be shooting. I was like setting stuff up, and then I had to go just eat like a Cliff Bar, and I thought, this is something I kind of want to think about and talk about, and I want to see what your take is. So in 2020, I don't have really anything planned when it comes to places I'm going to go in order to, maybe see shows. Of course, I'm going to see shows in Milwaukee. I'm going to see shows in Madison. I'm going to see shows in Chicago. Probably some in Minneapolis too. Maybe. Not sure. But the thing I was thinking about was, what if I did like a week in the United States where every single night I was in a different city seeing a different band that I really wanted to go see? Just to really get a feel for the crowds in different places and just kind of also travel and hit up a bunch of different cities as well. I thought, yeah, that's an idea. I also thought, what if I did the exact same thing? Again, but did it in Europe for a week. I also thought, what if I just do it in Europe for 2 weeks? Because I really want to go back to Europe. And basically it would be just all the music stuff that goes on there and get a better, for myself, and not only for myself, but for the fans as well of this podcast, My Song a Day stuff. Get them a feel of what it's like to be a part of these rock and metal communities in different areas of not only the United States, but in different areas of the world as well. Plus, I kind of just want to be a part of that too. And I kind of just want to, go back to Europe because I had so much fun. And why not? Go travel. I mean, I'm young. I mean, next year I'm going to be 25 years old. And again, the responsibilities I have are the responsibilities I put on myself. So why not do it? Why not do something that's going to make me happy? Because that's what I need to do. Just do the things that make me happy. Because I only get one life, and I'm making sure this life is the best life I can have. So, want to give another big thank you to Logan. I hope everyone's enjoying the Tool album and the Wage War album if you are big fans of the bands. And yeah. So next week, not sure if we're going to have a guest or not, but next week the new Sleeping with Sirens album drops on Friday the 6th, and you better believe we'll be talking about it on the Chord Progression Podcast. So I want to thank you all for joining me on this episode of the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song Day Rock 2000 to today. I take care of all this stuff, and I really want to thank you all for being a part of this group, this family, this community, because it means the world to me. I love talking music with you guys, whether it's rock, hard rock, metal, metalcore, whatever. I love talking about it with you, everybody. And you know what? Because it's the day this comes out, everybody, if you listen to this whole entire thing and it's your first day of school, still, best of luck throughout the whole entire year. And I'm going to keep bringing you some good stuff the whole entire time, too, to make sure that, you get through that whole entire year. All right, well, that's it for me. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song Day Rock 2000 to today. You guys know how we end all of these, and that is... See y'all!